cosa non fa luce. F8, credo. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And I'll open this session with the end, basically. So the question I was asked to address is how to develop a scientific collaboration with Italy. This is, of course, a very difficult question. It can be a successful question. In fact, as you see in the slide, I hold a dual appointment at Yale University, where I'm deputy director of the Liver Center, and in Italy, where, to my surprise, I have more administrative responsibility than I originally thought I would ever had. So, how to develop scientific collaboration with Italy? But first of all, we need to ask 3 questions, okay? First of all, why? Second, who benefits? And then we go to the last question, how? So why? I don't know why, but what I know is that every Italian abroad has this willingness to remain close to his own country. And this is not only true for Italians, it's true for everybody. And even if we are far away from Italy, in a way, this is a personal choice. It's not that we are here because we have been deported. It's here because we wanted to have more opportunity. We wanted to work in a place where the academic governance is better. We wanted to work in a place where the opportunity and the funding of research is run in a more meritocratic way. But at the end, it's a choice that we make. Nobody forces us. And I think this clearly, in a way, drives us to have this closeness to Italy. And this idea that we should probably give back, also because we all realize that our parents did not have to do all the sacrifices that they are doing here if you want to go through the university in this country. And we, in a way or the other, had an excellent education that was completely or almost free of charge. And so I think that the idea that why is clearly written in our genome and is written in our stories. Who benefits? I think everybody benefits out of this. I mean, clearly for Italy, there is a great advantage in remaining in contact with the so-called brain that belongs to this diaspora. And as one of the Italian Ministry of Health said once in a very cynical way, well, the real worth of an Italian abroad is if he stays abroad. That's a shocking phrase, but what he meant was that clearly there's a value that comes back to Italy for all the people that is here if we remain connected. But also I believe, and I hope I'll be able to show you some evidence of that, there's a great, great opportunity also for institutions of these countries to keep exploiting this international collaboration. And I think that yesterday, Professor Camillo Ricordi clearly gave us a great overview, a great hint of what advantages are in the new era in having these interconnections. Then we go to the question of how. And here the picture gets really fuzzy, because how it's a matter of opportunities, how it's a matter of your life history, and how it's a matter of having a clear understanding where you want to go, and that's the strategy, but being flexible with the tactics. You want to remain connected with Italy, but it's not easy at the beginning to be able to scheme a path to be able to do this. But you should really remain open to all the daily opportunities that your professional life is going to provide you and exploit them if your ultimate goal is to remain connected with your own country in a positive and fruitful way. So several years ago in Milano, I was asked to speak at the meeting organized by the University of Milano on the internationalization, I guess, of biomedical research. And the question I asked was, is that natural evolution or intelligent design? So natural evolution is what happens usually, okay? We all go abroad, we develop our network, and we remain connected to this scientific network. And if you look at all these individual stories from above, like using these big data analysis systems, it will look like a flock of birds. It will look like a swarm, okay? This continuous interaction going on between US and Italy, in this specific case, are thousands and thousands of hits every year, even more. But the impression is that they serve to some personal purposes, but at the end, it's like a flock of birds that moves and moves and moves, but remain in the same place, okay? Yet it's changing continuously. It is so because it's not organized. It doesn't follow an intelligent design in this case. Intelligent design is where situation in which two institutions start talking between each other because they recognize a mutual advantage through the use of common platforms, the use of common research, and eventually be able to apply for common grants. So although all of us, as LinkedIn would show you, have a myriad of connections, international, not always the connection in terms of overall system create a benefit because they are not organized. So what does it take to use an intelligent design in organizing your connection with Italy? Well, let's put the case, for example, the Yale Medical School. The Yale Medical School has only 364 students, but these are highly selected with an acceptance rate of 6%. It has 1,500 faculty to take care of these 300 students. You know, when you see this in Italy, they say, "Oh wow, we have 20 students per faculty," and it's considered to be to be tiny. There should be less faculty. So there's a lot of postdocs. The operating budget is close to $1 billion, both for clinical and NIH. It has 400 active patents, 35 biotech companies, 12 affiliated hospitals, and 1 million patient encounters. So here we have this giant. And I interview, and this is a global institution because the faculty search is worldwide. There's no nationality here. They go after what they need, no matter what. They go after the best. This results in a very diversified faculty in terms of nationality, ethnic background, gender. Half of the students are foreign nationality and has several missions in developing countries. In fact, as you heard from the newspapers, a few students were actually quarantined because they were coming from places where Ebola was epidemic. There's a strong partnership with China. You get like 50 extremely selected students from China every year. And there's a close partnership with the University College of London. So this is the University of Milano Bicocca. It's a very young university, founded 18 years ago. 32,000 students, multi-faculty. It's a unique campus structure that was derived from the headquarters of the Pirelli Corporation in Milano. there are numerous international students from several sources, and ranks 21 worldwide among the universities that are less than 50 years old. I don't know what that means. As you know, no Italian university ranks below 180, I think, or something like that. So. But it is the second among the Italian university, even if it is younger. So I interviewed the dean. I said, Dean Alper, what makes you deciding whether or not you can use intelligent design to develop a relationship with other institutions abroad? Well, he said, freezing me immediately. They have to be institutions of similar academic prestige. We are not interested in unequal relationships. There he was referring to the collaboration with the University College in London. There has to be opportunities for mutual improvement. So both of us must improve out of this relationship. There has to be big science projects, not petty projects. We need to go after the big science. And we need to form recognized entity that have the capability of applying for grants in both countries. And this is a key element of the whole architecture. Lastly, talk to me only if you have a fully financed project. And this is a lesson that I learned in my interaction with the States. You can't sit down with somebody unless you really have already done all your own work and all your fundraising, because they listen to anything which is reasonably funded, okay? So that was the situation. So how it happened that we developed anyway this collaboration. This goes back in 2005, because there's another secret you have to know. If they want you, they'll do anything to have you when they need to recruit you. And that is the key moment in which you have to be able to define your next 10 years. This is where you have to ask. You have to be able to ask at the proper time. So once they are hooked, then you put down your requests, okay? In my time, my request was, well, I want to stay connected with the Hospital of Bergamo, because there we developed the biggest pediatric liver transplant in Europe. There we had developed a great transplantation center. There is a laboratory, and there are 1.5 million euros of donation that I don't want to leave there. So after some bargaining, they decided that that was a good thing to do. Okay, particularly because there was $1.5 million from private foundations. And so we started with this joint program. And what you need to have a joint program, in order to sell it, you need to have a clear definition of what you want to do. And that time was that we wanted to translate the reparative regenerative capabilities of the liver into clinical application. That was the overarching statement in which we developed this scientific collaboration. And in fact, there were lines of research about hepatic progenitor cells, the treatment of end-stage liver diseases, with the idea that we could either substitute, which was our daily work as a transplant persons, or maintain the organ function, or the function of the failing organ. And then we were active in the liver cancer field. You have to define the partners, and the partners in this case were Celliver, this laboratory and foundation who was holding the money, Yale University, who was hosting me and putting his own great laboratories at our disposal, and Milano Bicocca, who provided the academic coverage. Then you have to define the deliverables. And these deliverables had to be shared by both institutions. Of course, there is scientific publication. This is our job. Also research training for students, PhD, postdocs, and rotation in a master program of medicinali trapianti. As Professor Ricordi said yesterday, the biggest problem I found was in the technology transfer agreement. And I used to say, I'm not going to discover anything, I swear. But even though, potentially, so that was the main difficulty. But again, if there are clear projects behind and money and everything, they're going to solve the question. So then, in 2008, the University of Milano Bicocca decided to use the return of nature value mechanism to bring this brain back. And they say, well, you know, we have a lot of interest in digestive diseases. And this is what it was, okay? When I say the desert, I mean, there was not a lab, there was not a department, there was not an office, nor a chair, no any plan for me to do even a lesson, okay? And there wasn't even the ordinario position that they promised, okay? There was an associate position, and I was full tenure, full professor at Yale University. So that's lesson number 2. You're gonna eat a lot of bad food. If you wanna do that, okay? Don't be stinky. Don't think you're a great professor from the US because they don't care. You know, there's a big plate of bad smelling food for you to eat. But if you can do it, then you can be successful. But remember, be humble. Be humble and remember you're dealing with, unfortunately, a fully different system. But you can navigate this system, as I showed you in the first slide. Okay? Just be true to yourself. Don't take vicious habits from your colleagues. So after a while, this is now digestive diseases at UNIBIB. So it's part of the School of Medicine, is in the Department of Translational Medicine and Surgery. There is a section of digestive diseases that has 2 clinical units, one in the San Gerardo Hospital, the other in the Niguarda Hospital. There is a GI fellowship we call specialty. There's a master in transplantation medicine and advanced pathology. And then there is this center that we created that was the evolution of the original center, which is called Center for Digestive Health, that include the liver lab in Milano, include the cellular, include the Center for Public Health in Milano, and the Yale Liver Center and the people in the Niguarda Hospital. These are the 2 hospitals in which the section spans. The one on the left is the Niguarda Hospital, is the biggest hub hospital in Milano, and the one is the San Gerardo Hospital. So the 2 hospitals are just gigantic. I'm not going to go through this. So, but the powerhouse that is represented by the joint operation of these 2 GI units is great. There are 24 plus 22 beds, so 46 beds. There are altogether 1,500 admissions per year, 11,000 clinic visits, 4 programs, 11,000 endoscopies, and the liver transplant center in Niguarda that actually performs more than 90 transplants per year. Now, part of this was there, of course, you know. All I had to do was to assemble this under a meaningful theme and proposition. But see, this is an incredible powerhouse because when we had to run a study, in 18 months, we prospectively collected 1,700 patients with cirrhosis, 700 with hepatocellular carcinoma, 1,500 patients with hepatitis C, and so on and so forth. It's a huge clinical machine. And then the exchange program, we had like 18 summer students, 5 PhD students that we exchanged, people coming from Milano Bicocca to the US. and down to 9 full-time faculty members of Yale University that spent some time in Milano with us. Lastly, we also developed an interest in the sustainability of care debate, which is a big thing. Okay? Yesterday I mentioned about the fact that we have a cure for hepatitis C, but we don't have the money to provide that cure to all the people that need them. So there's a whole area of interest here, which is called value-based medicine, and the idea is to find ways to obtain the best outcome at an affordable cost. This is an idea that is being promoted by Michael Porter, who is one of the most famous professor of business administration at Harvard University. He is the proponent of the competitive advantage of the firms. He's an expert in competition, and Elizabeth Teisberg. Well, how this started? This started one day in New Haven. I was terribly depressed after a transplantation clinic in which I thought I could not provide care to several people just because they were in condition of, they were frail. They had a frail support in terms of family, and they were frail economically, and we were not providing them care. So I said, the hell with it, let me take a walk. And I walked by the bookstore, and I found this book, 600 pages, I read it. This became a study which was sponsored with €1 million by the Ministry of Health and the region of Lombardy, designed to find the outcome indicators for all liver diseases. And this became a major topic last week at the International Hepatology meeting, but also was fully endorsed by Yale University, who is now redesigning the clinical liver center according to this idea. So this idea originated from Harvard, went back to Milano, Lombardy, and bounced back to the institution in which bookstore I read this book, and becoming one of the ways they're trying to address this changing environment. So this is all the people that belongs to the International Center of Digestive Health. So at the end, there is not a codified way to organize these collaborations. They clearly take shape along your life and along your operosity and your willingness to keep in mind every step you make that you come from Italy, that you have this binding relationship, and you're going to go at that added value every time you do something. And of course, I have to acknowledge a whole lot of entities and bodies and everything that supported us with their generosity. Okay? And I hope, though I'm not, I know if Vito is here, that one of the activities that the Italian chapter of ISSNAF can do would be to try to provide money for people, some seeding money to help these joint programs, which is different from sending somebody to study in the US and to work in the US. There should be fundraising to find the money so that each of us with good project can sit down with the dean and say, okay, I have some pocket money just to show you that there are people that believes in what I'm going to do. And with that, I'm done. Thank you. That's up to you.
Any question from the audience? I have a question. You have a question, please.
I'm very interested to see what your mission from the ISSNAF that is in Italy to, in order to support the ISSNAF and different chapters that we are located in the US, and how we can support from the institutional point of view.
What we are thinking with the ISSNAF board is one, fundraising in order to support, first of all, the programs of the ISSNAF, Mama ISSNAF here. But second, I like to try to see if there is the viability of supporting bilateral program, meaning staff that sit both here and there. And the second and the third activity would be advocacy. I think there's a way to do some advocacy in order to improve some part of our operations. I mean, ISSNAF has written some guidelines a couple of years ago how to improve in a competitive way the governance of research and university. I think those are valid because they're just basically an attempt to transfer this American way and translate it into Italian. So this would be the three things. And Alberto Di Mauro, which is sitting on the back, is going to be operative in that, and we'll see how far we go.
So it seemed like that was an incredible effort to create this collaboration between the two institutions, and now you've been successful in doing it. You are at the top list of both lists of faculties. You are the bridge of this collaboration. Do you feel like if you would retire, this collaboration would keep staying on, or is now independent from your presence?
That's a very tough question. This collaboration is still, unfortunately, highly dependent on me and on my ability to sustain economically both places, okay? Because I have to successfully win grants in the US, but also in Italy, and the funds are not matchable, okay? They have to stay where they are. And one thing I have failed so far is to have the Ministry of Research to recognize this, okay? Because I'm doing this on a waiver from the rector in Milano, but there's not a real way to recognize the importance and the benefit of these dual appointments. Yeah.
Actually, I have a follow-up question, I guess. Thank you. Marta Ceruti from McGill University. So Yale accepted that you spend part of your time and efforts in Italy, basically?
Yeah, decreasing my salary.
Ah, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Which is small in the US, but very big in Italy.
I have a strong voice. I think you can hear me.
Yeah.
So one question, because it's very interesting that you've been incredibly successful. It's very, intriguing, and also is a way for me to see what we can do, an example for me. But one thing I want to know, since you're working also in Italy, one thing that is kind of interesting in the Italian system is the private foundations. It's not clear, at least to me, how you can approach them, how you can use their money, and how you can deal with this dual appointment using foundation that I see in the end they were mostly Italian. So can you just give us some idea about that?
Well, as I said, the money has to be separated. You cannot pay reactive here using Italian money or vice versa, but you can pay people to going up and down, for example. But there are also other ways. I learned last year here in the embassy when there was this cooperative agreement between US and Italy that there are 200 R01s that has an official Italian subsite. This is huge. So there's a lot in Italy that US is seeking, okay? Because to become an NIH subsite, you have to show there's no other way to do that part of the experiment in the US, okay? And they have, of course they don't really leave to give you money. But what that tells me is that there are a lot of laboratories in Italy, a lot of expertise that are being sought by investigators here. Again, in a natural evolution model, okay? It happens that you're good in that, and so you become part of an international group. But there's a way, in any way, to get some money also in Italy from a body like the NIH. So you have to have something really special. Okay.